if I'm going to get 10 hours of my life back, what am I going to do with that 10 hours? And how am I either going to make it financially sound for me in that, oh, well, I'm going to deliver 10 more hours of service, so I'm going to get billed 10 more hours. Or maybe it's actually, for a lot of our clients, I'm just going to not work till 10 o'clock at night, or I'm gonna have Saturday not do clearing my inbox down. Sometimes it's just actually about how the time's spent that is a bonus. Do you know what I mean? To make life better.
Okay, welcome back to the Director First podcast, where we bring you stories, strategies, and success secrets of extraordinary business leaders. Now, today I have a guest who has essentially, she's helped me in my business over the years a lot, but she's changing the way that entrepreneurs run their businesses and reclaim a bit more of their time so they can focus on the stuff that they're really good at that really moves the needle. So she's a powerhouse entrepreneur from Manchester, a trailblazer in the virtual PA industry, and she's the creative mind behind the company MyPA, one of the UK's leading virtual assistant companies, if not the leading. Now, she's been doing this job a long time. I know she doesn't look it, but it's been in there for over 16 years. She's helped countless of business owners focus on what they love. And I am one of the advocates of MyPA. I've used their service for years and years. So she's also the host of the podcast Focus on the Fun Stuff, where she also shares incredible insights on productivity, outsourcing, and making business life kind of fun again. So get ready for a deep dive into Emma's life, Emma's productivity hacks, and why outsourcing might just be the thing that saves your sanity. So please join me in welcoming the amazing Emma Mills to the show.
Oh my God, what an intro. That was,
yeah, do you like
that was unbelievable. That's the best intro of my life. Whatever you've just said, I need to take and bottle for future. That was the one. Wow, I'm very pleased to be here, Chris. Thank you for inviting me.
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure. So, Emma, I don't even know how I got to know you. I think somebody a few years
do you know
ago.
what? Was it not Will Polston potentially where there was a connection, maybe?
Will mentioned you first, right? And like most good ideas, I ignore it the first time, right? and then my business was growing and we was buckling under, and who was it? It was a guy who used to run AdWords for us many, many moons ago, and I forget his name, but he was like a legal guy. He did legal leads for solicitors, and he said, Emma Mills is who you need to speak to.
Yes. Is it Nick Jervis?
Nick Jervis, that's it, yeah.
Yes.
And that was
No
probably
way.
2020, and I've been, so I've been using various parts of your service since 2020.
You have.
And you know, and I'm a happy camper. So, what motivated you to start MyPA, and you know, how has that vision evolved over the years that you've been doing it?
Yeah, no, so I have a virtual PA business, and prior to having that, I was an EA, a PA. And the short answer is I can only explain it as a feeling inside, and that I wanted to run my own business. There was no, I mean, I guess the grand plan that I had in my head was I knew that I really loved being a PA. I love it because you really get to see the impact you make on somebody's life. I love the relationship you create with another business owner. And I loved being a PA, but I also wanted to run my own business. So as most of us do, the skill that we have, we turn into a business and think, right, well, I know I can do it, but how am I going to get other people to do it the way I do it? And how am I going to figure it all out? And honestly, the only key things were I had this internal feeling that I wanted to go and do it and figure out what was the way. I wanted it to be a company and not Emma self-employed, which was the most common, I guess, iteration of a virtual assistant back in the day. I always had in my head of like culture, great workplace, going out for drinks, and all of those things are important to have happy team members and happy customers. So that was like culture and creating a community of a business was like number one. But how I got there from 26 to what is it now, 16 years later, like there was no grand plan. I just knew I wanted it to be something that people like, oh, I want to use my PA. And so, yeah, I mean, and I guess just the other key thing I want to say is that, because I often feel like it seems people just know what they're doing. And when I started my business when I was 26, oh my gosh, like I literally knew nothing. And I will also say I had a very cotton wool upbringing. So I was hyper aware that I had to learn a lot of things. And I think that has been my grand plan over the past 16 years, just learning. Do you know, Chris, from like how you're getting your leads, how you're servicing them, how you're doing, like just everything. Because like I say to our PAs in my business, all the business owners that we work with, there is no manual. Most of us, all of us, we don't really know what we're doing. We're just taking the next step and figuring it out and go. So just that, I knew I wanted to help business owners. I knew I wanted to create it into something good. And I knew I had to learn a lot of things to figure out the way, basically, like all of us. Yeah.
No, listen, it's a good answer, and resonated with me. How this all started for me, it was like I went through an insolvency, like was frightened to death because like in my head I'm quite a streetwise person, I'm not an idiot, and I went through this really frightening thing called insolvency, and everyone I spoke to,
Oh,
they didn't speak my language, and out of it I just had this. I met a guy and he said to me, he said, listen, we can generate work for these insolvency practitioners, and we didn't really have a clue how we was going to go out about doing that. We just thought, right, well, we'll give it a go. And we did. We just turned up and we thought, all right, well, that's worked. And then we tried loads of different ways that didn't work. And eventually it sort of, and obviously you've supported me in all the businesses that I've been involved with over the last
yeah,
few years. And it's grown to today, like we are probably one of the number one insolvency appointment generators in the whole of the UK, from a, a you know a lad from a council
yeah,
estate in the northwest of England who never went to university. And just like you said, I had a feeling that there's something in this, and and
yeah,
and every day you take a step forward. So, um,
yeah.
but for me, right, when I'm talking to people who are successful, what I really want to know is about the significant challenges that you've encountered as an entrepreneur. Because listen, for me, when it's going good, it's going good. It's no problem. Everything you touch turns to gold, sort of. But I've
Mm.
learned personally through the really hard times. So what are
Yeah.
the challenges you faced, and um, how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I feel like there's two key periods of time in my PA's life that, and we were at different size revenues. So from 2014 through to 2020, we went from like maybe 4 up to 9 people. So I guess this size people call it like a lifestyle business, and in that period of time, um, I mean, it's also great, that size business, because you know everyone and everyone's getting along, and it's a bit like we're the family, and it's just this small group of people trying to make things good. And it's like you say, when and it's you've got that energy, and we're all like on the bus together making things happen. And I think and what happened is we stalled there for a really long time in terms of size, and it felt to me pretty thankless, because you'd like go a few steps forward, a few steps back. We weren't really getting any bigger, and I always believed there's a big place for us in the market. We weren't really like, yeah, people knew of us and they thought we were doing amazing, but we were a really small business. And I realized in around 2018 that the key thing that was holding us back, and it had held us back for many years, was me. And I was fully in the business, like looking after everyone, doing every job, doing all the hats. I was in the people that were on my team, they were answering calls or providing PA support, they were doing the do. And what I was doing was, I guess, it's a bit like kind of from leading from the front. Like I was bringing people on, looking after them to do the work. But as even a 10-person business, all the different areas of finance, marketing, operations, how we're going to get clients. I wasn't thinking strategically actually about, well, how on earth, Emma, are you going to do all of these things? Like, do you know what I mean? Because I was fully in my own way. I was only considering employing people to do the work, as opposed to, well, hang on a minute, if we're going to grow next year, where are all the leads coming? Because you haven't got the time to do that, Emma. And honestly, now looking back, for the longest time, we stayed the same size. It was about like 350K, 400K revenue for a really long time, for that one reason, that I was totally looking at this business in the wrong way. And I wasn't, and it's interesting because I talk all the time about leveraging your time, doing the highest value things, and I was coming at it from a perspective of, no, I've got it, I can get on with it, but I couldn't. And when I realized that, and I had quite a slap around the face on it in a mastermind meeting particularly, where the guy that was running it said to me, honestly, Emma, how do you expect, if there's only you operationally and all these people doing stuff, how are you going to get to the next level? And from that, Chris, like, even just, financially, like, I'm not a trained bookkeeper, so then chasing money and not having the right people who are the experts in those areas to help me grow my business was probably problem number one that we faced. And then I did get out of my own way. I got my own PA, which took me far too long considering what I do. In 2018, took some of my own medicine, started to get positioned an ops manager in there, and started to actually get people with responsibilities to grow parts of the business. And I would say the next biggest challenge has been, from 2020 to now, we've grown a lot, and that brings with it also its unique challenges, that things you don't expect. And I guess just the overlying things, that as we've grown from 10 people to 20 people to 30 people and so on, is that understanding of culture and systemizing culture in a business. Because once you get past the people around the table, it's hard to actually know if everybody's happy. So I think that culture piece, as you grow your business. And the second part, which has been a real learning curve for me, and I've always wanted growth, and we want bigger growth going forwards, is really understanding that kind of rhythm of cash flow and clients and payment and funding growth and maintaining profit while funding growth. I don't think it's something that's often talked about, really, unless you kind of, getting funding from a big venture capital firm, or you're not, when you're bootstrapped, which is what we are, that, like, trying to figure out how to grow and fund it and pull and all of those things, that from 2020 to 2024 has been, that growth journey has been a big challenge for us as well.
So I can, I can really identify with like the doing, and we're probably in that stage here a little bit because I'm a real control freak. And like one of the best things that's happened to me this year is my brother has sort of took on more responsibility, certainly with
All
smaller
right.
stuff. But we like I find myself at the moment, at the end of the day, my head is absolutely mashed because I've got in and I might have had, 8 calls where I'm really having to think. I'm having to think about problems all day long, write some copy, do this, do that, and perhaps we need to have another chat after about what else you guys can unload from me. But for you at the moment, how much of your work life is doing now? Are you where do you give me your average day? What does Emma Mills do in a typical day? What does it look like?
Yeah, and it is actually quite easy for me to tell you this, because I have quite a fixed rhythm to my week that works really well for me. So Monday is team day, and I have really, really had, like, drilled into me. I've really become aware that the more I am in the business, the worse the business is going to do. And it's not about kind of, you know patting yourself on the back. It's about actually understanding what your unique ability is to, like it will be for you, like attracting opportunity and partnerships and relationships and bringing good stuff to the business. So the more I'm in the business, I know the more we're going to slow down. So my week actually looks like Monday is team day. So I'm in the office in Manchester, and we'll have our internal team meetings to ultimately understand, is the ship on course, like with our scorecards, with our, performance metrics, helping where I can in terms of coaching team members that are leading people and understanding anything we need to be aware of that we need to fix. So that's what I do on a Monday. My Wednesday and my Friday, where possible, I keep free to work on things that I need to and want to work on. So like whether it's things that are going to improve the business, whether it's the podcast or whether it's a project we're trying to land of, I don't know, redesigning our onboarding experience, or whether it's figuring out how we're going to get one really big client next year, like that bigger stuff to just really think about. So my Wednesday and my Friday, where possible, I keep free of meetings so that it's actually just a day to be right. I can be creative. We can not have to like keep stopping for calls. And then Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoons is all about calls or meetings or podcast recordings like this that we're doing on a Tuesday afternoon, or any kind of meeting or call that needs booking in. And then I've got basically Tuesday and Thursday morning free, which generally I will spend on content or marketing or something like that. So I'm blessed now in that I have, my ops manager is Matt, is fantastic, and he makes my life easier. Like that, it's just a great job description. That's what he does, and so that's what my week looks like now. And just to be super clear, Chris, it hasn't always looked like that at all, and that has come from advice and also figuring out what works for me, and just I'm pretty sure we've all had those weeks where you're dead busy, you've had loads of calls, like you just say, you go home and your head's smashed, and actually by the end of Friday, I know like you've done things that have moved the business forwards, but if you could actually say, but what is like the bigger, what this week has made the business move forward, like in a big way, or making sure we get rhythmic customers. I feel like for a lot of us, at one stage in our business, becomes really difficult to even know what that is. Well, I'm just doing stuff. I'm just solving and answering this call that's coming, and it's just so I just want to be super clear. That's not come easy to me. It's been from a real place of, I need to get better. I need to get better. I need to get better here, because we're steering the ship, aren't we? So where it goes is very dependent on us.
I've always watched your content. I've always watched it, and I remember you putting a post out about you don't take calls on Fridays or Wednesdays, and I
Yeah.
did that. I followed you, and I've just had that realization. I don't even know when you put that post out, but it must have been a
No
while
way.
ago. And well, the thing is, I followed that advice for a while, right?
Yeah.
And clearly now I'm back into old habits. And but I saw that. So you've mentioned masterminds as well. So
Yeah.
where do you get that account? Because I'm the easiest person to fool. I don't have anybody checking over me. So
Yeah.
how do you keep yourself accountable when you go out there and set, right, I'm going to do this? Where do you get that accountability from?
Yeah. Well, and I guess maybe, I don't know, we're all different and maybe it doesn't work for anyone, but I do really thrive off accountability, and I love having the pain almost of having to check in with somebody at some point to go, well, did you do that thing you were going to do? Definitely the pain motivates me. I know some people can just get on with stuff regardless, and they're pretty like self-sufficient and they just have themselves to answer to. So I'm a member of a mastermind with Nigel Bottrell, who I know that you know. I've been in his group for such a long time, maybe like 2014, maybe 1 year of a gap. But so I get my accountability there, and not just from Nigel, like the other people around the table. I also have a coach that I'm working with, a personal coach, and that we speak every 2 weeks. And so that accountability of getting off the call and saying, right, these are the most important things, and going to the next call and saying, oh, do you know what, I've not done any of that. Though that external because I'm aware that the things I need to get done are different to my team members. So I have some external accountability like that. And then one of the key things me and my leadership team, if you like, have really learned this year is the accountability amongst ourselves and being true to it. I don't mind saying that one of the biggest problems, or like the biggest things I've learned, is that, I mean, I want everyone to be happy and I want everyone to enjoy being in the business, and that fine line of people not doing what they say they will do and tolerating it has definitely been painful for us. So we've really had like a learning curve together, especially over the last 3 months, where we've gone, no, we've all agreed around the table we're doing X, Y, and Z, and really that accountability internally as a business and not tolerating if somebody hasn't is really starting to turn a corner for us and make bigger impacts. Because I think it's dead easy as a team to be like, oh no, I know you're busy, don't worry about it. But actually, if you really, really want to move forwards together, those uncomfortable conversations are where the good stuff comes from. Do you know? And you often find, I mean, people don't intentionally, I feel like, do things. They're not bad people intentionally. They just might maybe have made a priority choice that wasn't right to do something else. But you'll often find that once you've had that uncomfortable conversation once, most people, they don't want to have it again. So it's like, no, I'm getting it done next time. I'm not coming to this table. So that accountability piece for me and for my team has been really key. But yeah, no, I get it from masterminds and a coach.
So I want to sort of just move the conversation in a slightly different direction, and sort of go back to what you do and what you've sort of made your, your whole business about, and it's the importance of outsourcing. So why do you believe outsourcing is crucial for business owners? And where would you start? Someone who's, watching this, where would you start? What do they need to start getting rid of? As much for me
Yeah.
as anyone else. I am asking you this.
Yeah. Well, in answer to the first part of the question, I know it's cliched and everybody's probably seen it on an Instagram quote a million times, but quite literally, Richard Branson has 24 hours in a day. I have 24 hours in a day. And the key difference, for me, the key difference, and I know like there's luck and there's funding and there's who you know, not what you know, and all of that, but also the key difference is how you spend your time. Do you know? And once it is for me why most business owners, I mean, I feel like I've mentioned this stat a couple of times. I really need to refine what the stat is, but it's a very small portion of businesses that will pass the million turnover point, or they will pass like even employing a member of the team. And for me, there's the key differentiator is that discernment on what you should be doing in those hours. And I feel like there's a couple of parts to it that when you get your head around, I remember again, Nigel Bosch was one of the first people that said it to me about like the 80-20 rule, that actually 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of where you spend your time. But when you really drill down into, you, Chris, could spend, I don't know, an hour on a Zoom call with a potential partner that you can drive you loads of leads for insolvency, or you could spend that hour replying to emails in your inbox and getting down in the weeds. And it's just, do you know, when you really get like hyper aware of the choice that you make, and
Mhm.
and I'm sure all of us have done it when we spend the day in our inbox or replying to messages, or just you go around in that circuit even of like checking apps, checking inboxes,
Yeah.
and like and and it's stuff that makes the time pass, and it might feel like you're on top of things or you're aware of everything now, but it hasn't actually been meaningful work. And that age old example of, you got like your £10 task, your £100, you've got your £10,000 task. Like there can be 1 hour in the week that would drive like leads to you for the next 3 months in 1 hour, or you could just spend the whole week doing the £10 an hour task. It's that real internal understanding of how you spend your hour and the value on it. And I think the second part of it for me that drops the penny most often is when you understand what your hourly rate is personally based on what you want to earn. So, if your hourly rate turns out to be, and there's a whole sum of what do you want to earn, how many weeks a year do you want to work, how many hours in that week, and it just equates down to the hourly rate. Even if your hourly rate's 50 quid an hour, when you start to think about, well, if it's 50 quid an hour, like, again, I know I keep using the same example, why would you file your own emails? Why would you? Because you can get somebody who knows how to do it better than you, loves to do it for much less than that. And I think, to go back to your original question, like the big change is really understanding that we all have the same amount of time, and the value of the things that you do in those hours is like the game changer for me. I was lucky enough to have Daniel Priestley. I don't know if people listening might know who
Yeah,
he
of
is. He's like
course.
written a lot of books, has like an entrepreneurial accelerator, and me interviewing him was like, it was almost like a coaching session for me. And he was like, Emma, as the leader of the business, you need to be out of the business, like catching the big whales that are going to feed the business with leads, or you need to be out there getting the partnerships and the strategies and the opportunities. It's not about staying behind the desk, just,
Hmm.
doing the things that you can get other people to help you with. And so I feel like when you realize what your hourly rate is, and ultimately, for me, it should be a game almost to go, what next am I going to offload to somebody that can. And then the third part of it is just that once you have offloaded, if you get, say, a virtual PA for 30 hours a month, or you get a bookkeeper, a really cool thing to do is, if you've got a bookkeeper for 10 hours a month and you were doing it, and go, well, okay, I've got that 10 hours back. Make a plan on what you're going to do with that 10 hours. Because then people can go, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to save money here and cancel that 300 quid bookkeeping because I could do. But actually, no, let's just keep that and make a plan of what are we going to do in those 10 hours. Am I going to go to that networking event I've not had time to do? Am I going to ring up 10x customers and see what they're up to? And, like, actually make a plan with the time that you've outsourced, so
Mm.
it starts to become tangible, that you're not just spending money and I could get rid of it all again and do it myself. It's
Can I just ask, right, how long have you
yeah.
scheduled for this podcast?
How long? Oh, sorry, like literally.
Yeah, today, me and you. Just so I
Yeah,
know where
sorry.
I can go with it.
I think it's until 3. I think we're in for another half an hour. We're in for an
Okay,
hour.
brilliant. So I've got another half an hour of personal coaching by Emma Mills. So I was
Yeah.
just double checking. So getting rid of emails. What else? Getting someone in to do your emails. What are some other practical things that people could be going and going, really, you shouldn't be doing that? What shouldn't I be doing? Talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my podcast is called Focus on the Fun Stuff because I believe a lot of us start a business, we're all excited, you get into it a few years down the line, you're doing everything, and a lot of these things you don't like and don't enjoy, and the energy evaporates from you very quickly, and you go, why am I doing this now? I've got less time, I'm earning less money. And so, in terms of the more like high level, what should I not be doing? A really great thing to do if you've never outsourced before, or even looked at what you should. A great thing to do this weekend is to make a really simple list of, like, what are the things I've done this week that I just don't enjoy. I don't enjoy, or I don't know how to do. Like, they are a great place to start, because we want to get. I'm also. This is why I started my podcast. Like, I'm passionate about business owners enjoying. It's hard enough running a business, so we need to get the fun back where we can and enjoy it. And I think that's a really great place to start. The things you don't know how to do or don't like doing, like, make a list of those. But ultimately, lots of gurus talk about your unique ability. So,
Mm.
like in your case, Chris, I mean, you are prolific on YouTube and with video. Like, every time I open YouTube, you are the first person I see, and so you're that for sure is one of your unique abilities, isn't it? Like, you're not going to outsource that to somebody else. Okay, somebody might come along in time that can also be a key person and start to do videos, but that is a really great use of your time, and you're not going to outsource it. So it's, for me, it's understanding the stuff that you really love. Like, when you're doing it, you're in flow. These are the things you were born to do, and understanding everything else around that. And I guess most often in my world, it leads to, let's say, more like admin related. So inbox and diary is a great one. Anything financial, admin and bookkeeping. These are like, I guess, easier, low hanging fruit, quick wins.
I'm writing all this down. You know that, don't you? This is brilliant.
And I mean, even across, not just in terms of my world with my PA, but just across the business. I mean, you said before you mentioned writing some copy. Now that is a skill that most people don't have or don't know how to do well. So clearly that's a unique ability. You want to keep that. And then it's like, okay, well, other things on the list that actually, even whether it's customer service related. I know, like, when we've worked to you, like that flow of getting work through and making sure customers are happy. And yeah, I know it's hard as a business owner, because most often you think, well, no one can do it as good as me.
Yeah.
And
Nobody
if
does it better.
and I believe it's true with the things like your unique ability. Like, no one's going to have the secret sauce of the way you would make a video like that. People are going to love that particular style. But with most things that are not maybe pulling your personality and character into it, you can find somebody that can do it better, that knows how to do it, that loves how to do it even. So even like my podcast, like, I'm turning up and doing the episodes. I'm not doing anything else around it. They're getting getting it out there. All that's outsourced internally in my business to my PA, and she's managing that. I do believe that the key to really enjoying your business is funneling down bit by bit to going, but in fact, this is a great question. So when I was in Mastermind with Nigel the other week, and I was talking about planning for 2025, and I said to him, I was like, actually, I'm struggling a bit with planning for 2025 on what actually excites me. What do I want the business to look like this time next year? And he said to me, why don't you plan it in November 2025, what does Emma's week look like? Like, what would be the dream that actually maybe she's podcasting for 2 days, she's meeting some clients for lunch and getting some feedback on the service and how we can do it. I'm just making it up, but like, why don't you plan it around? Because I feel like when we enjoy our work better, all the good things come, money and everything else kind of is a offshoot from that. He's like, actually, why don't you plan 2025 so that by next November, your ideal week is in motion and you're only doing the things that you love to do. Like, that's, and I was like, I love that. And that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment, because the more you can, because he was saying to me, I mean, Entrepreneur Circle have had a massive growth over the past 2 or 3 years. And he said that one of the key things is he has, over the past 2 or 3 years, extricated himself bit by bit from all the parts of the business. Because ultimately what happens is, it happens to me in my business, like, oh, Emma's mum, she'll be able to sort it out when this client's sent in a tricky complaint, or I'll just ask Chris because he'll know better. And it's about bit by bit, like, okay, well, today, what have I done that really this time next year I need to get somebody else to be able to make a decision on?
You see the thought, right? So years ago, I used to do masterminds, and I go out a lot, and I try and get to these networking events. The thought, right? Because you're talking about entrepreneur circle. I've always thought, looks good. That quite like what they say. And I've toyed with the idea of joining these things again. And the minute I think about it, the thought of actually leaving the office for a full day
Oh,
scares
really?
the life out of me. Yeah,
How
yeah,
interesting.
it's like yeah. So I've got some work to do there,
Yeah.
haven't I?
It's honestly a really great question and realization, I feel like, which I'm sure will resonate with lots of people listening to this. Because I've definitely had it where back in the early days, I remember when I went to one of his events in 2014, and honestly, I listened to one of the people, and then I ended up in my car outside on my laptop because something was going off in the office and I wasn't there. And I mean, now my day, touch wood, is far apart from that and very, very different. But I totally get you when you're like, actually, you don't feel like it's worth leaving because it's just easier to be here and in case, and you can fix. And that is a really great starting place on
Yeah,
how
well,
to extricate yourself.
I'm definitely going to look at that. I mean, you've touched on some really good ideas, but what are sort of top strategies from your point of view for a busy entrepreneur to start to manage their time more effectively?
I think some key things are, I think you should get support. Like, I know you've been a champion of getting support for yourself from the beginning. I think the earlier you think about getting an assistant, and just to really make this dead clear, I'm not talking about a really high salaried PA. There's so many options now, whether it's a virtual service, whether it's somebody that's in mum's group that wants some work, there's so many options. But I think getting an assistant as early on as possible is literally, Daniel Priestley said this, that as soon as he came to England from London, it's the first thing he sought out was somebody to an assistant, because he knew him booking his own trains or booking his own lunch things was not going to make him the business that he wanted. So I think number one, that the thumbs up on the screen, looking whether there's somebody existing in your business that can pick up some time, or just start getting some support. I do think that is key. I think in terms of some other key strategies is, if you have a team or not, having time that is non-interruptible has been a key for me. I'm sure we've all been used to it, of the flicking between everything, of the Teams or the Slack messages coming in and the WhatsApp and checking everything. I honestly think having time every day, whether it's 2 hours, 90 minutes, an hour, just to work on. So again, for you, it might be like tomorrow you go, I'm just going to do that hour to map out next week's YouTube videos, and they're done and they're dusted. And it's like a good hour of that. I know this is important for the business.
Hmm.
So I do think taking control of your time, taking you like control of your calendar back. That's why now I only really try and get calls on a Tuesday and a Thursday, because I feel like we've all had it where everything's everywhere and you've got a call on Friday afternoon, something early Monday morning, and actually I'm not really at my best early Monday morning, so why have I got it there? And just having a happy calendar, having a calendar that you enjoy going into, as well.
I've heard this off you before, and what I did is I used to block out 9 till 10. You could not get hold of me at 9 till 10. I've walked in this morning and have a bloody call at 9:30.
Yeah.
I just slip back. Like, I don't want any. I don't like a call after 3 o'clock on a Friday. But I'm looking at my calendar as we're talking, and I'm thinking, how have I slipped so far off the beam?
Yeah,
Um,
well, you do. I totally get. And sometimes I don't do it now, but there've been times when I first started doing my Wednesday and Friday that was clear, where I'd say to Bex, my PA, I'd say, "Oh, well, okay, just sneak it in on a Wednesday, then that's fine. Just book it in on a Friday." And when I actually thought about the week, at the end of the week, my days, like the week, was less enjoyable. Like, honestly, just part of it is preference. I really enjoy having a day where I know I don't need to speak to anyone. I'm not wanted on a call, and I can just do the things that I want to do. And
mm,
so I do think, um, not to sound woo woo, but like just reflecting on, was that a good week or not? What was good about it? And when I tried to shoehorn things in all over the place just to get it done, because I guess I'm a people pleaser as well, and you just think, oh, I'll just do this, rather than going, well,
mm.
actually, no, can we wait? My weeks were certainly less enjoyable.
I mean,
And
one of the things that I
yeah.
want to jump into with you, um, and this really surprised me, is the cost of getting support. Because I was one of those people that, well, the only type of support that I could get is someone who's going to want X amount as a salary, holidays, da 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 da. So, could you share? I mean, we don't have to go into details, but if somebody wants to start looking at some type of support, where would it start from? Is there big commitments? Do they have to sign up for a year? Where does it start from with my PA?
Oh yeah, well, so with my PA directly, there's not big commitments. It's a monthly rolling service, so we are here to be flexible as well, with demand, with resources needed. So I mean, in terms of where it starts from £380 a month for support, and that's 10 hours of support. Now, So I guess I should dive into a little bit about how my PA works. So all of our team are here in our office in central Manchester, and our clients get a dedicated EA directly that they will work with, they'll build a relationship with. But our USP, if you like, our service is about having that service all the time. So if your PA's away, they work in a close team, we're very system and process orientated, that the service still continues, that there's somebody there. So our service is all inclusive of ultimately having a dedicated EA, but a team behind them who are going to make sure this is always happening. There's no holiday to think about. It's not like, oh, my work's stopping next week because she's off sick or she's on holiday, or even we employ human beings, and when people go on maternity leave, and then there's still somebody there ready to support you. It's just about not having to think about that side of, I guess,
Mhm.
ultimately team management again. So yeah, I thought I should just kind of clarify what's included in our support. So yeah, and our support starts at 10 hours a month. Any less than that, and it gets very hard to impact somebody properly. But honestly,
Mhm.
like for a lot of business owners who've never had a PA before, I know all the questions of, well, what should I delegate? A lot of people just go, but what would I give them? And it's really interesting to me, that, because every business owner is busy and they go, well, what would I give them? And we have a process whereby we can pull that out of you, because every business owner has got stuff to hand to a PA. Definitely. They're just not in that mode of delegation. They're just
Mhm.
not in that used to going, oh, I don't have to do it myself, actually. Can you do it? And it is definitely a skill and a habit that you have to get stronger and better at. And you have to you have to train yourself to do it, which we also help our clients with. But yeah, it's it, again, the key thing about getting some support, no matter who you use or what the cost is, for me, to really get the financial bit sorted in your head, it's like, well, if I'm going to get 10 hours of my life back, what am I going to do with that 10 hours? And how am
Yeah.
I either going to make it financially sound for me, in that, oh, well, I'm going to deliver 10 more hours of service, so I'm going to get billed 10 more hours. Or maybe it's actually, for a lot of our clients, I'm just going to not work till 10 o'clock at night, or I'm gonna have Saturday not do clearing my inbox down. Sometimes it's just actually about how the time's spent that is
Mm.
a bonus. Do you know what I mean? To make life
I
better.
do. It's listen, I'm gonna move the conversation on because there's a couple of other things that I wanted. It's been uncomfortable for me start to finish this call because it's really made me look at like all the stuff that I'm not doing. So let's go on to something a little bit nicer to talk about.
Yeah,
I do obviously I don't stalk you, Emma, but I have always followed you on your various social medias and
yeah.
um you're an advocate of fitness. You've really got into it over recent years. So, how do you balance a fitness routine along with the demands of running a business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, before anyone switches off at this point and thinks, "Oh, fitness, I'm not bothered about that." The two for me now are so intrinsically linked. I never really considered it before. Like, I feel like people know, oh, if I'm healthy and I'll feel good, but it really, I mean, I've always been relatively into the gym stuff, but last year I did one of these transformation things where you lose weight and you do the photos, and that was a massive learning curve for me on the effect of how I feel and my habits and my energy in the day directly linked to the success of my business. And honestly, I am not just saying that. I recall talking to my ops manager early 2023 to say, like, some of the changes I've made in my business, in my lifestyle. Sorry. So some of the key things I don't mind saying. Stressful day at work, I'd go home and like self medicate with a glass of wine.
Mhm.
But that was becoming more of the norm than not. Um, and then you have shitty sleep, and then you wake up feeling groggy, and then I kind of, you then wonder why every day feels like a slog. And so when I committed to this fitness thing, and ultimately it was just about losing some weight that put on over COVID from all the kind of drinking and eating at home we did. But the habits that I got into have really simply, and I think it was also just about prioritizing myself first, because I made sure that nothing got in the way of going to the gym. But it wasn't so over the top that I was like at it 10 hours a day. It wasn't like that. It was just about steps every day, tracking calories, 3 weights workouts, 2 runs. And honestly, the impact of getting into that, and it was a bit tricky at first because you need to make a habit stick. But as I got into it and as I started to feel better and better, my ability to deal with stress at work completely
Mm,
changed. I didn't feel stress. Things unexpected things happen all the time, and it was like, it was just my reaction to these things, how I felt every day. I had more energy. As I lost weight and felt better at myself, I felt more confident in work. And honestly, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to go on a transformation, but just paying attention to what you
mm,
put in your body, how much you move your body, and having good sleep is such a direct
yeah,
correlation for me on being good in the day. It really is.
yeah, yeah. Mate, I'm with you. Where I sometimes struggle, and I've had it recently, and again, it goes down to I need to look at my time again. So I really need, I'm a very strange, I need half an hour in the morning to be ready. And I'm talking, I just do my thing in the morning, right? I have a
Yeah.
morning routine. That's no exercise. That's like, I read some literature. I
Oh,
get
nice.
quiet. I say a few prayers. I just try and get, help me
Fantastic.
through this day.
Yeah.
But then I train. Okay. Now, sometimes, if again, because I've messed my diaries up and I know I've got to be into work for 9 o'clock because I've booked a bloody call for 9:30 and it's getting to 7:15, I'm thinking, I haven't got the time to do this now because if
Mm,
there's
mm.
traffic, I'm going to be late. And it boils like I've just not managing my time properly. But do you
Yeah,
train in
yeah.
the morning or is it at night or does it, when do you train?
Yeah, no, the morning's not for me. I train in the evening, but again, and I was always there. Oh, I'll go tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll go tomorrow. And last year, when I got serious about it, at the beginning of the week, I would plan in my sessions of what I was doing and when, and I did make them priority. Now, I mean, the only thing in the morning for sure, I think if you set yourself a limit of like no calls before 10 or no calls before 11 and stick to it, I think you would probably feel a bit more like, I can do this, there's no pressure, I can go in, feel good, attack the rest of the day. But yeah, I would plan in what I was doing when. And for the first time, because I'd got into these habits so specifically, and to be fair, I also had a fitness coach at the time. So I guess again, it comes down to accountability, that I didn't want to turn up to our call and go, oh, I didn't do the things. So I would plan them in the week and nothing got in that. Like, yeah, that they were the priority. And sometimes, I felt like I was working less because I was like going to the gym at 4:30 or whatever fit in the day. But one, because I had it in, I was, I guess, more effective because like, well, I've got to go to the gym there at 4:30, so I'm gonna, I need to get this done. But two, I just think my output was so much better because my head
Mm.
was clear, I wasn't groggy, I was like in on the zone. I felt really great, and that internal feeling had such an impact on my leadership in the business, definitely.
One thing I want to ask you before we go, it's like, and again, it's some, I feel like this has been a personal therapy session. I'm very grateful for it. I can really struggle with work-life balance, that harmony,
Mm.
like, so what practices do you do that helps you maintain that work-life balance? What do you
Mm.
do? Can you advise me to do? What are your tips?
Yeah, so I talk about this a lot on the podcast. It does really intrigue me, and I do agree. I mean, I feel like most of my guests have said the same thing, in that in terms of work life balance, it's not a thing. It's more of an ebb and flow, of sometimes you just need to go all in at work. And I think when you sometimes work life balance can almost give a bit of a guilt thing, that everything must be you must be really great at work and then dedicating all the time at home. And I know you've got children as well, which I don't have. I know that's another added, like being a good dad, being a good husband, being a good business owner. Like there's so many. And so I think for me, one of the things is definitely being in control of my calendar again. So I don't have kids, but like we do we always have an end of month date night to celebrate the wins of the month. I really enjoy that. Like we actually reflect on what's gone well in the month, and just take a moment to go, yeah, that was good. Like, let's move on to December. So I think one of the things is being in control of your calendar rather than letting other people just slot things in. So whether that's the fitness bit, whether that's date night with your wife, or whether that's knowing that you've got to take the kids and do X. I spoke to one of my podcast guests, Tom. He takes his kids to school every single morning. And for him, like in terms of being in control of his calendar, he doesn't have any calls before 10 a.m. because he wants to go to the gym, take his kids to school. And I guess some of it is just about making the decision and getting back in control of the calendar, isn't it? And I think another thing, just in terms of work-life balance, my whole reason for starting focus on the fun stuff is because I also, like when you say this is a personal coaching session, this is how I feel when I'm interviewing, because I'm interviewing people that I want to learn from. And I think the more you can get rid of the stuff that you don't enjoy, and like I guess Nigel's advice to me, like November 2025, what does it look like if Emma's having an absolutely week that she loves all the stuff she's doing? Then for me, work-life balance kind of starts to not be a thing because I'm loving what I'm doing in work, isn't it? And if you're staying later, well, I'm doing it because I really want to get this great thing done, or I think that's where my attention is really focused. That I don't. We all have them, and I still have them now. It's like, oh God, this today doesn't feel good. I'm doing all these things I don't really enjoy, and it's just like moving that towards I'm bloody loving this. Every day is a joy. That's like my goal.
Listen, great answer. I am conscious of time. We're going to have some quick fire questions to wrap up, okay?
Yeah, okay, gosh,
Right,
this sounds pressured.
Daily routine. What's the first thing you do each morning to set the tone for the day?
I do make a coffee and I take my supplements. That is the first thing that I do.
Okay, cool. Favorite productivity tool? Is there a tool or app you can't live without in your daily operations?
Daily operations of the business, we live on Asana, but daily operations of Emma, my one favorite productivity tool is an app called Growth Day.
Okay.
I've shared it on Instagram stuff before, and it's part journaling, part really great stuff to listen to, part planning tool. I use that Growth Day.
Cool. Perfect. And the last one, book recommendations. Can you recommend one book that has significantly influenced your entrepreneurship journey?
Yes. One that has turned my head around this year, especially when we're having a more challenging time, is a book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Harding. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And honestly, Chris, have you read the book by any chance?
I've got a funny story. Will recommended it to me. I ordered it off Amazon and it come. I didn't look at it while I was ordering it. I've got that copy in German. Yeah, so I need to get a new one. And I can't read German. So yeah, but go on, please. Get back to the
no.
recommendation.
All I was going to say is on that. Well, three actually. Dan Sullivan's got two brilliant books. The Gap and the Gain, and most of us constantly are looking forward to what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? We never look at bloody hell. This is where I was 2 years ago, and this is where I've got. And so he calls it living in the gain. When you're constantly living in that, I'm doing good stuff here. Whereas most of us live in I haven't done that 10 million yet. I haven't earned that money. I haven't bought that house. The book is brilliant for changing your mindset. Second book is Who Not How, and it very much is everything we've talked about. When you're doing something in your business, it's not like, how can I get this done? It's like, who can I get to do it for me, is a really great one. And the third book, which I've read a couple of times now, and it's a bit like a Bible, it's called The Road Less Stupid. And the guy who wrote it is called Keith Cunningham, and he is actually the dad in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's actually the rich dad, in that book.
Yeah, of course.
And honestly, Chris, his advice in it is just so, like, you read a chapter and you're like, I'm going to stop reading it because I need to think about that. It's called The Road Less Stupid. You will love it.
Okay. Emma, I am so grateful that you've joined us.
Thanks for having me on. I've loved it.
Yeah, and this will go out at some stage in 2025. Is there anything else? Where can we find more about Emma Mills and the fabulous team of MyPA?
Well, our website is MI, make life difficult for myself. It's an I, not a Y. So it's mi-pa.co.uk. And I am Emma My PA on Instagram or Facebook or wherever on any platform. So you can find us in those two places.
Emma, once again, thanks. You have been a brilliant
Thank
guest,
you.
and I shall catch you soon.
Thank you very much, Chris.
See you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye.
See you soon.